I know you are talking about a lot of topics when it comes to Belarus and what's happening right now. Strategically, it's a big threat for the European Union, but there is also a humanitarian aspect of the crisis, which is very interesting for our Kurdish audience. How you evaluate the current situation on the border? Because I spoke to a Polish MEP and he said, it's okay, what's happening right now there? Mr. Villumsen.
I think there is a humanitarian crisis. We see that people are dying. It is freezing cold, and even families with small children are being met with violence from the Lukashenko side, but unfortunately also from the Polish side of the border. So we have an unacceptable situation where EU should live up to its responsibility to human rights and secure the right to seek asylum. And on the other hand, of course, put pressure on the Lukashenko regime to targeted sanctions and political pressure in order for the oppression of the Lukashenko regime to stop, not least towards the Belarusian people.
Okay, so you are actually criticizing both sides, not only the Belarusian side.
Yeah, but of course, like Lukashenko is a terrible dictator, and he should be met with tough action from the European Union and targeted sanctions. But on the other hand, we also need to live up to our responsibility to human rights and secure the right to seek asylum, because I think that we need a European response that is based on solidarity and human rights, because if we do not have this, then we will have time and time again. That could be Lukashenko, that could be Erdogan, that could be the king in Morocco trying to pressure EU, and this is unacceptable. So we need to stand together, but do it with respect for human rights, not through pushbacks and violence against refugees.
Okay, Mr. Schieder, I know that in the European Union everyone is talking about solidarity, but I hear from the Polish side that the European countries, some head of states of European countries are moving bilaterally to contact Mr. Lukashenko and have contact with them. Do you agree that the only problem is not Poland?
I don't know if the only problem is Poland or not. I think what we have to underline is it's completely unacceptable that humans are used as some kind of weapon. And of course there are always two sides, because there is Mr. Lukashenko and the Belarusian regime which want to put pressure on the European Union. But there is also the Polish government, which is also not very respectful for human rights, and they are trapped into the trap which Lukashenko was putting, because if they would act together with the European Union, if we would simply act united, nothing is a big problem, because the European Union, I think, can solve the issue, can treat it in a human way. As Nikolaj was saying, I think it's extremely important. We are in the Geneva Convention, we have to respect this. Not only we have to, we should and we want to respect this, because it makes a human also to respect human rights. But on the other side also to make clear, we will not obtain even a second from the hard sanctions from Mr. Lukashenko. So it doesn't pay any success to him, because he's a bloody dictator, and we will treat him with the hardest measures we can invent, the sanctions and other ones.
Yeah, the hardest measures can prevent him or stop him, you think?
I think...
Because you already tried the hardest sanctions.
No, I think there is some now which is an additional one against also travel agencies and so on. So I think this is important. But of course, we don't allow pushbacks, as Nikolaj was saying, not on the Croatian border, not on the Polish border, not on the Spanish-Moroccan border, not anywhere. Of course we have to react on this, but we have also to make clear that all those people which went into a plane and went up to Belarus, of course, were also fooled, because somebody told them, listen, you can enter the European Union. This is not true, because anyway you have the right of asylum, of course, but it is not the free ticket to somewhere.
Yeah, we heard from Lukashenko. He's saying we can make a deal, accept 2,000 refugees, and the rest I can send them back to their country, because 2,000 refugees are trapped on the border. Why this deal is bad? Why there is no, unanimity here in Europe to do so?
But I think this is not about making deals with Lukashenko, because I really agree with Andreas Schroeder when he says that Lukashenko is a bloody dictator and he should be met with sanctions. And I have to disagree with you when you say that there are already tough sanctions in place. We can do much more, and we should do much more, because what Lukashenko is doing towards his people with oppressing the people of Belarus is totally unacceptable. And so this is not about making deals with Lukashenko, but we have to pressure Lukashenko at one hand, and at the same time live up to our responsibility for the Geneva Convention and handle the humanitarian crisis at the border. Because of course a Syrian refugee, an Afghan refugee, people fleeing from Iraq for good reasons cannot just return, and they are trapped right now. So there need to be humanitarian help for them and access to seek asylum in the European Union.
So what's the solution? How should that be solved? I mean, the trapped migrants. They say it's not only about 2,000 migrants, it's about more, about 70,000 people who are coming after these 2,000 migrants. So what is the solution?
But the solution is to put pressure on Lukashenko and at the same time give people the right to seek asylum. I think, honestly, we do not know exactly what is the situation at the border, because the Polish government has prevented journalists from coming there.
Journalists, but you are not prevented. You can go to there, right? As an MEPs.
Yeah. If you just see what, for example, in Croatia happened, where also members of parliament wanted to investigate and were refused and were blocked for seeing what's going on the border. But what is the situation is also that Poland is not cooperating with Frontex, for example, which is the EU entity to handle this issue.
Yeah.
And Frontex, this is very strange too, because also Frontex is based in Warsaw. So anyway, they are there, so they could easily help and try to find out. But
what
we are making clear is not about negotiating with Mr. Lukashenko. Is not about that he can say take what number ever, and the problem is solved. It is showing how inhumane he is. And tomorrow, Mrs. Tikhanovskaya will be in the parliament, and she also made clear he's a bloody dictator. He killed already hundreds and thousands of people in jail in his country. So he's not about being nice to people which are looking for asylum. So whoever is coming to Europe, of course, has the right to apply for asylum, but it also has the case if you're not getting asylum, of course, then you have to also return.
Right.
So this must be clear, and I think this is the how it works. So
as I understand, you are also in favor of accepting those people who are trapped on the border, or give them a chance to seek asylum, right, in a European country.
It's not. I think the wording is wrong. It's not about accepting anybody. It's not making a deal. It's not opening, let's say, a flow where Lukashenko then, of course, next year will come with another number of people. But it's saying who is on the European ground. Europe is not a state like Belarus. Europe is not pushing people back. It's not playing with people. So whoever is in Europe, of course, has the right to put down his case and to seek asylum if there is a case of asylum. If you just went into a plane without any reason for asylum, then of course your problem starts when you're in Europe, because then you anyway at the end will go
So
go
honestly,
back home.
I have to be honest, I still don't hear a concrete solution from you.
What is your solution?
I don't know, I'm a journalist, I'm just
this is
I have
the easy
questions.
life of journalists.
Yeah.
They only can ask questions, but sometimes politics is not, there is not one solution.
Okay.
There is also rules and beliefs on which we have to orientate. This is, we believe in a humane handling of situations like this. We believe in the Geneva Asylum Convention, and we believe also in human rights, which means that Lukashenko is not a partner for us.
Okay.
But I think there is a solution, and I actually think we're describing a solution. We're saying how to deal with the Lukashenko regime. We cannot win a race to the bottom on human rights with Lukashenko, because he will go where none of us wants to go, and if we go there, we will have no values left. So we should stand up for the Geneva Convention and then deal with Lukashenko with tough sanctions in order to make his regime fall and give the freedom to the Belarusian people.
Yeah, Lukashenko threatened with war actually. Yesterday he said this lead to war. Do you believe that he's serious about that? Is
No.
it in
He's
his
not
favor?
serious about anything. He's a crazy guy.
What do you think, Mr. Villumsen?
But I agree. He's under very much pressure,
Yeah.
and he's saying a lot of crazy things,
Yeah.
and we should not bend to his threats, but we should put pressure on him, and then of course at the same time respect human rights.
But do you agree with me that he has tools in the European Union? For example, in some countries, some companies are lobbying for him? Because we have examples.
Honestly, I have not realized any serious lobbying for Lukashenko.
In Belgium?
No, honestly, there is no serious tools which we can call tools. He is a lonely dictator with only the army supporting him, or having the army, having all his peoples against him.
Yeah.
He, of course, he is also kept in power by Moscow, probably, but nobody accepts him. It was a fake election. He stole the result.
Yeah.
The people are demonstrating daily against him.
Yeah.
And I think it's clear to everybody in Europe who is serious that this is not a partner, this is only a dictator.
Okay, in Augustus, the whole European Union said we don't accept him like a president, he's not legitimate. But he changed the situation in 3 months and you are all talking about him in the European Union. Don't you think he was successful in his game? I mean, against you, Europeans?
I will give you that much, that Lukashenko is trying to, change the ball game. So instead of having us discussing the oppression taking place in Belarus and how to put pressure on him, we are discussing the humanitarian crisis at the Belarusian border. So of course that is a trap, and I think Andreas is right when he says that the support for Lukashenko, I do not see it. But of course, if you fall into the trap and do this race to the bottom on human rights, then you let him dictate how to deal with the situation. So this is why I think not falling into that trap, putting pressure on Lukashenko is where we should go, and this is what will pressure him the most.
Yeah. Okay. I hear from from the Polish side that European Union has no enough tools because Frontex is like a think tank. It's not really a powerful organization to protect our borders.
But I think this crisis shows that we need to have a European solution that is based on solidarity and human rights, where we take asylum seekers coming to EU, look into their cases. If they do not have the right to have protection, then they should be sent back. If they do have it, then they should be distributed based on solidarity within the European Union. Because if we do not have the situation, we will see time and time again the different dictators will try to split. The European Union will use this to put pressure on us, and the creativity knows no limit, right? We have seen it now in Poland. It could happen in Finland tomorrow. It could happen with ships in the Baltic Sea coming to the Danish coast. So I think this is also showing that you cannot just say that it's Greece, it's Italy, it's Spain that have issues, and Malta that have issues of migration and refugees coming. It is actually all of us that should have the need to have a common solution, because if we don't, we will have this possibility that dictators try to shift the playing field from pressure on them towards a humanitarian crisis, as we see right now at the border to Belarus.
Okay, Mr. Schieder, I read in European media that Poland is actually overreacting about the current situation, because we had Greece, thousands of immigrants came from Greece to Europe, and we never had such kind of situation there. Do you agree with that?
I think the dimensions are exactly like this. There had been a much more worse dimensions. And this is showing that there is a dictator on the one side, which is in Belarus, which tries to, let's say, go away from the real pressure that he's dictator to make a new game. And there is the Polish government, which also is under big pressure because they are not respecting European rights like they should. So the European Court, and there even strong demonstration also in Poland against them. And of course they are somehow happy that now with Lukashenko they have also another issue where they can play with. So we are discussing two propagandist attempts, while the facts themselves are not so dramatically, and we should stick. I think this is important. We should stick to our politics, which is no cooperation with this dictator, but strong sanctions against him.
Okay, there is a theory that Lukashenko dreamt about having a deal like Turkish-European deal about migrants. That absolutely not realistic, or there is a chance to have such a deal?
If you ask Mr. Scherer and me, there will not be a possibility to have a deal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not the two of us that decides everything. So of course there is a risk that Lukashenko tries to do what President Erdogan have done, and I think that this is where, like, also the European Union and member states have to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves if we actually want to be able to put pressure on dictatorships at our border that are violating human rights, oppressing their people as Lukashenko clearly is, then we need to be able to have a solution when it comes to refugees and migrants that is based on solidarity.
So this is because Belarus is not to compare with Turkey, or that even the Turkish-European deal was bad?
But I think Erdogan has been playing the way Lukashenko is also playing, and I think that something that we are discussing a lot in the Kurdish Friendship Group here in the European Parliament is, the action that Erdogan is taking. We know that Erdogan is attacking northern Iraq, the Kurdish areas there right now. We know that he's attacking in northern Syria. So we have this absurd situation that Erdogan is actually creating refugees. Some of the people who are trapped in Belarus might be people that were bombed by the Turkish army in northern Iraq and are fleeing. So we have these dictators that are creating problems, and we need to stop dictators forcing people to flee. That is the way to avoid that people need to come to our borders.
Okay, Mr. Scherer, we talked about Belarus, about Poland, about the European Union, solidarity, everything, but about Iraq and the Kurdish regional government, the role of both governments, what should be in this crisis, you think?
I think there is a reason why we discuss about Turkey and Syria. In this case, and of course, if you ask the question because people are from the region brought to Belarus, I think this is when some dictators play with human beings like a weapon or like something where you can play on. Of course, these people are fooled mostly because they're put into a plane and then they tell them, listen, there is a broader future, which is not. And of course, but we in the European Parliament, in the Kurdish Friendship, we support very much these attempts of self-administration of the Kurdish people in the region. We think this is also the way how Europe should react on all the crises, to empower people in the region to have a better life and to organize a better life, which is self-administration, which is creating economic chances and things like this. So on this issue, we are extremely supportive.
Do you want to add anything to what Mr. Scherer said?
But I very much agree. But I think there are some very concrete, because here in Europe, people from actually both left and right talk about we need to help the refugees in the area where they are, so they're not fleeing to Europe. And we have a situation in the Kurdish part of Syria, as an example, where you have a self-administration that is trying to take care of its people, but also refugees from other parts of Syria, people that helped us in the fight against Daesh and are now left alone, being attacked by the Assad regime, being attacked by Erdogan. So a first place to start would be recognize these people politically, helping them humanitarianly so they can take care of their people. So and of course insist on international law so that Erdogan are not attacking them. And I'm also saying this as a Danish citizen because we know Erdogan is part of the NATO alliance, and it's totally unacceptable that a NATO country is violating international laws, attacking our allies in the fight against Daesh and forcing people to flee.
Okay, Mr. Nikolaj Villumsen, thank you very much. Mr. Andreas Schieder, thank you very much for participating in this panel.